Hey, Stuart.
Greetings and welcome everyone. Carlene, thanks for that reminder, and it's nice to see you again this evening.
Likewise.
Welcome everyone to the second installment of our March series, Religare Music. I am Stuart Nelson, the Vice President at the Institute for Spirituality and Health at the Texas Medical Center. At ISH, our mission is to enhance well-being by exploring the relationship between spirituality and health. I'd like at the outset to introduce and welcome our ASL interpreter, Karina Heath from Nightingale Interpretive Services. Welcome, Karina. We're very glad that you're here this evening with us. And Carlene, Director of HGOco, Houston Grand Opera's Community and Learning Initiative. Welcome.
Hi, Stuart. I'm so delighted. Can you believe this is already week 2 of the 5-week series. So it's great to see you after all of the planning. Like Stuart said, I'm the director of HGOco, which is Houston Grand Opera's Community and Learning Initiative. This series is part of our ongoing partnership through HGO's Seeking the Human Spirit initiative. And this is a 6-year multidisciplinary initiative designed to highlight the universal spiritual themes raised in opera and to expand and deepen Houstonians' connections to opera and art.
Great. Well, it sure is a wonderful collaboration. And if you're joining us for the first time this evening, just know that Religare Music is part of a wider series called Religare that the Institute has sponsored. That explores some of the essential building blocks of cultural and religious traditions like prayer and food and architecture. Religare in Latin is considered by some scholars to be the root word for religion. It means to bind or to bind fast or bind again. And Religare music delves into the rich musical traditions that have inspired and communicated profound aspects of human experience for millennia. So through the components of music that we've themed our episodes after, rhythm last time, melody this evening, harmony, lyrics, and silence, you may see connections between cultures and spiritual traditions where none were present to you before. So today we're focusing on the element of melody. And to begin, our moderator, Anthony Brandt, will share some thoughts on melody. Anthony Brandt is a composer and professor of composition and theory at Rice University's Shepherd School of Music. Welcome, Tony. We're really glad you're here this evening.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Thank you, Carlene. It's wonderful to be with all of you tonight. So melody is typically described as a pleasing or memorable musical line. But of course, it's much more than that. It's the musical signature of songs and instrumental pieces. It's sometimes our biggest takeaway from a musical work, what we remember the best. It's what we sing as we leave the concert hall or the next morning in the shower. At its loftiest, it can be our connection to the divine. Here's a classic melody from Borodin's Palavetzian dances. Yet music is just vibrating air. And melody has no real physical existence outside of our memory. So how does it make such a strong impact on us? And the answer is human pattern recognition. Thanks to the human brain's magical ability to recognize patterns, we are as adept at distinguishing melodies as we are at distinguishing human faces. Change the context, change the instruments, even disguise the melody a little, and we're still able to recognize it. Next slide, Amy.
I'm a stranger in paradise, all lost in a wonderland, a stranger in paradise.
And one more example. So how does that work? Well, in Western music, we typically rely on 3 musical features to recognize melodies. First, there's the shape of the melody, its contour. when and where it rises and falls, and by how much. Here's the opening theme of Bartók's Music for Strings, Percussion, and Celeste. When that melody comes back in the last movement, Bartók changes its inner details, but we still recognize the theme from its contour and rhythm. Speaking of rhythm, that's another memorable feature of melody. Here's the start of the last movement of Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto. Later in the movement, the piano mimics the rhythm of the theme with only hints of the melodic line. Finally, the harmonic progression underlying a theme helps us to recognize it, even when the melody itself is quite distorted. Here's the opening of the third movement of Brahms's Second Clarinet Sonata. Later in the movement, the following passage occurs. Thanks to the harmonic progression, we recognize that this isn't a brand new melody, but rather a reworking of the earlier one. Western melodies only make sense to us because our brains can follow patterns of contour, rhythm, and harmony. It's those patterns and our ability to recognize them that warm our hearts and lift our spirits. Now, traditional Western melodies tend to be very internally repetitive, have a regular rhythm and phrase structure, and need to be sung in tune to fit with the harmony. Melodies in other cultures can be quite different. For instance, in the Psalmody of the Hebrides Islands, the congregation sings together, but is not coordinated by a shared pulse. Instead, everyone sings the melody at their own speed. The phrases of this lullaby of the Nkundu tribe of Africa has a very irregular phrase structure. The layering of voices in this Bulgarian folk melody allows for dissonances that would not be permitted in traditional Western music. Finally, the combination of voices in this pauhiri, the welcoming ceremony of the Maori people of New Zealand, has a different sense of tuning and vocal combination than in the West. There is an amazing variety of melodies and how they are treated across world musical traditions. In fact, even the way pitches, the building blocks of melody, are perceived varies across cultures. Listen to the following example. So I bet a lot of you in our audience tonight heard the melodic line go down. Well, that turns out to be culturally conditioned. In the West, we apply spatial metaphors to pitch, but there are other cultures that describe pitches as old and young, and others still that refer to them as large and small. For the Shona people of Zimbabwe, low pitches are crocodiles, and high ones are people who chase after crocodiles. It's hard to know if those other cultures internalize melodies in the same way that we do. Nevertheless, some scientists have suggested that there are 6 universal types of song that can be recognized across culture: love songs, healing songs, dance songs, work songs, lullabies, and songs of mourning. Let's put that to the test. I'm going to play 2 short excerpts. Please match each one with the category that you think fits best. And we can go past the next slide and go straight to the example.
Este niño lindo que nació de día quiere que lo lleven a una dulcería.
Okay, so that was the first example. Match that with the type you feel fits best. Now let's try the second one. So what do you feel that one matches with? So you might be surprised to find out that both songs were lullabies. In many cultures, a lullaby, of course, involves singing exactly the same music over and over while getting softer and softer. However, when Bebenzeli pygmies want to put their children to sleep, they sing louder and pat their children on the head. So even though there are consistencies across cultures, we must always be careful about claiming that a musical practice is universal. Over the span of tens of thousands of years, humans have created a staggering variety of melodies. Virtually every musical tradition speaks through melody, but what those melodies say and how we understand and appreciate them varies widely. That diversity is a tribute to the expansiveness of human imagination. Thank you, and now I'm happy to send it back to Stuart.
Thank you for that illuminating talk, and I have to admit I did not get either of those. I thought the first one might be healing or love, but lullaby was in my mind too. The second one definitely not. So I'd just like to ask you, at ISH sometimes we talk about spirituality as the innate ability to connect and make connections in the world, and our impressive ability to recognize melodies seems to also be inherently connective in terms of the pattern recognition you were speaking of. So do you see a relationship between the human spirit and music cognition?
Oh, you bet. Yeah. I would say patterns create understanding between people, and creativity helps to hold our attention. And understanding and attention together is connection. And so, the creative use of patterns is fundamental to how we, as you so beautifully put it, bind ourselves together. And, spiritual practices are a lofty reflection of that. Rituals often provide the patterns, which then creativity keeps alive and relevant and fresh.
Wow, so beautiful. Well, I look forward to hearing your remarks in our panel discussion at the end of the evening. But now we're going to turn it over to our first performer of the night. Thanks, Dr. Brandt, for your remarks.
Thank you, sir.
So I'd like to now introduce Fatih Bayram, a member of the Istanbul Trio, who will be sharing some Sufi prayer music. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, Stuart. How are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about the music we'll be hearing tonight?
Sure. First of all, I just wanted to say I'm delighted to be a part of this program on behalf of the other two of the Istanbul Trio, my beloved musician friends, Aslıhan and Ertuğrul Erkişi. I'd like to thank you, Stuart, and Carlene, Tony, Andy, for this valuable gathering. Before I give you a brief intro about the melodies that you'll be listening tonight, I'd like to tell you about Istanbul Trio. Although Aslıhan and Ertuğrul Erkişi are settled in New Jersey now, they spent majority of their lives in Istanbul, which is, historically speaking, the crossroads of many civilizations and various cultures. They grew up with the music originated in Anatolia. Anatolia is the peninsula from Mesopotamia stretching to the Balkans. So it's a very diverse cultural geography, I'd say. So the classical Turkish music, the music that they were born into, learned, performed, and taught for many years, has a long history and contains a large scale of intercultural elements in it. Aslıhan and Ertuğrul are experts in classical Turkish music, perhaps like many other great musicians in Turkey. However, they are unique in one way. In the beginning of 2000s, they released an album called Chorus of Little Prayers, or they called it Little Prayers Group. This was an attempt of spiritual healing, targeting mainly the wounds of young people. So this album sold over 1 million only in Turkey, which was pretty impressive for that time. I'd say these compositions, melodies, initiated a unique genre in terms of content. And many others produced similar works of art after being inspired by this album. Now they see New York as their new home, which we can say crossroads of world cultures. And they continue to teach at their School of Music, which they call Nirvana, which I, again, find very meaningful. And together we perform throughout the U.S. So the melodies that you'll be listening to is from one of those performances. My great musician friends, Philip Mayer, Umut Yaşmut, Ian Kenselar, and Peter Daverington has joined the Istanbul Trio there for that performance. The first one is a Sufi song in Nihavend scale, which is in D minor, with some microtonal embroidery in it. So that it's called Ya Rabbi Aşkın Ver Bana. A literal translation could be, "Oh Lord, give me your love," in the sense that teach me how to love in the best possible way. So Ertuğrul decided to connect this tune to another Bektashi tune called Demedimi, which translates, "Didn't I tell you, oh soul?" Again, in the same makam, Nihavend, or D minor. The theme is basically about self-interrogation. So this can be seen as a method of ripening one's soul in Anatolian Bektashi culture or in Sufi tradition also. So, Stuart, you'll also notice a whirling dervish, which represents the Mevlevi tradition there. I'm not going to go into the details of that since our subject matter is only melody here. But it's all about the effort of reaching this immaculate state of spirituality. So hope you enjoy it.
Ya Rabbi aşkın derman efendim, Ya Rabbi aşkın derman efendim, bu diyelim. Allah Allah döne döne Mevla'ya yığın ya Rabbi efendim, Mevla'ya yığın ya Rabbi efendim, bu diyelim. Allah Allah döne. Çağa düştü Yusuf gibi efendim, Çağa düştü Yusuf gibi efendim, derde düştü. Allah Allah Eyyub gibi Ağlaya yığın ya Rabbi efendim, Ağlaya yığın ya Rabbi efendim, bu diyelim. Allah Allah döne döne bu diyelim. Allah Allah döne. Güzel aşık cevizini çekemezsin derimi, bu bir rıza lokmasını yiyemezsin derimi. Güzel aşık cevizini çekemezsin derimi, bu bir rıza lokmasını yiyemezsin derimi. Demedim mi, demedim mi, gönül sana söylemedim mi? Demedim mi, demedim mi, gönül sana söylemedim mi? Bu bir derdi gelir geçer, uyamazsın demedim mi? Bu bir derdi gelir geçer, uyamazsın demedim mi? Yemeyenler kanını açar, gözlerinden kanlar saçar. Bu birdenbir gelir geçer, uyamazsın demeyi. Yemeyenler kanını açar, gözlerinden kanlar saçar. Bu birdenbir gelir geçer, uyamazsın demeyi. Demedim mi, demedim mi, gönül sana söylemedim mi? Demedim mi, demedim mi, gönül sana söylemedim mi? Bu birdenbir gelir geçer, uyamazsın demeyi. 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 Thank you so much.
That sounds wonderful. So, Carlene, I will turn it over to you to introduce our next artist.
Great. So, thank you. And I'd like to welcome our next guest. This is Tim Keeler, who's the music director of the famed choral group Chanticleer. And I have to say, I'm a fan. I'm a total fan. I'm fangirling here, Tim.
Well, thank you so much for having us on the show today. It's a lovely lineup, some brilliant musicians and some terrific music. So we're honored to be a part of it.
Oh, well, and again, you know, I have to say I heard Chanticleer for the first time when I taught at SUNY Potsdam, and I think it was like 1992. And I was just floored. I remember sitting in Hosmer Hall and just kind of going, I had no idea. And so I have many recordings. Again, I am quite the fan. And so I am so honored that you would take the time and share a little bit of your music. Can you tell us about the group Chanticleer and your mission, your musical mission?
Absolutely. Yeah. Chanticleer, as you said, has been sort of a staple of choral music in America for a while now. We were started in 1978 as a collection of 12 singers singing soprano, alto, tenor, bass, but intriguingly only countertenors, tenors, and basses. So no true sopranos or altos in the group, which makes for a very distinctive and unique sound and something that we're very proud of. We're also one of 2 full-time choral ensembles in America, which is something we're very proud of and something we're very privileged to have, actually.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I have to say that this was a little engineered by me because I am also a huge fan of the music of Hildegard von Bingen. And she is one of my I get some of my most inspiration from her music. And a lot of people don't know about her. She was a cloistered nun and a composer, one of the first composers that we really know about today.
That's right.
And so could you share with us a little bit about this beautiful musical piece that Chanticleer will sing?
I will, yeah. As you said, Hildegard von Bingen, a German composer and a Renaissance woman before the Renaissance. She was living around the year 1150, and she wrote music, she wrote lyrics, she wrote literature and books about science. She really did everything. It was very inspirational. And so she has a set of collections of antiphons, mostly, that she not only wrote the music for, but she wrote the lyrics to as well. So the selection that you're about to hear is a piece by her called O Frondens Virga, which translates to O Blooming Branch. Virga meaning branch and Virgo meaning virgin. So this is actually an antiphon for the Virgin Mary, And because amongst all of her many accomplishments, Hildegard actually was an abbess at a convent that she started herself. So this is a piece that she conceived from the ground up. And this is our performance that we sang at the Mariinsky Theater in Russia a few years back. And it's actually a bit of an arrangement. The Hildegard song itself is just a melody. It's a beautiful, simple melody. And so this is a bit of a spin on it by a previous music director, Jace Wittig. He interpreted it a little bit and added a couple notes here and there just to give it a little more atmosphere.
Great. Let's take a look at this wonderful piece. Oh, can you anything else you want to add about that, Tim?
Yeah, I agree. It's very meditative to just listen to it on its own. I spoke with the soloist who you heard, Adam Ward, briefly before coming to chat with you all tonight, and he said something very profound. He said, when I did that performance, I knew that I had to find Hildegard and hold her hand. And she led him through it. I know it was a meditative experience for us listening to it, and also one for him as well as he was performing it.
Oh, and again, it just speaks of that. Even that quote just speaks of the connection, the profound connection that can come from being in that state of bliss. Really,
Absolutely.
It's just beautiful. Oh, this was just lovely, Tim. We'll look forward to your contributions to the chat when we come back with you. So thank you so much. And our final guest for the evening is Pandit Suman Ghosh. He's a Hindustani classical music virtuoso. Welcome, Panditji, and also to your lovely wife, Sashi. How are you this evening?
Doing very well. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Darlene. Thanks.
So.
Firstly, thanks for the kind invitation, and it's an honor to be here. Always at the Houston Grand Opera, and today in the middle of all wonderful, distinguished people, and we are really carried away by the music which we have heard so far.
Isn't
so
it just? Oh, well, I have to tell there, we have a connection because, Pandit and Sashi have performed in one of HGOco's filmed projects from 2 years ago called A Rose, music by Kamala Shankaram. And we actually just relaunched that series last week and had a watch party, and I just got to enjoy that music all over again. And so, could you tell us a little bit about what you will be performing this evening?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Let me speak about the compositions or the repertoire we have chosen.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I will do for you, we will sing for you, is a devotional composition from our genre of Indian classical music. So there are different segments of devotional music there, but there are some which generally speak about life, speak about things which are very abstract, which are not a part of, probably very obviously a part of our day-to-day life, but those are there. It's almost like, things which are beyond the wall, not written on the wall, but which are as relevant as what is written there on the wall, if not more. Right? So the theme of this composition is about mind, the thought process. So what it says is, one can win the world, one can win everything in life by the strength of maybe power, maybe wealth, maybe resources. But perhaps the most difficult thing to win over is our own mind. And make it work, make it move in the desired direction so that I am on the right path by the end of the day. So the final verdict or final words, it says that the only way to ensure that is by following the path of honesty, humility, and truth. And one who follows that, he or she finally arrives at the world or the realm of life where there is only happiness, nothing else. So the spiritual connection is all about Indian classical music. Okay, Indian classical music is all about spirituality. So this composition only provides a glimpse of that. Okay.
Understood.
If let me see, sometimes, since it's all extempore, we get a little carried away while singing. If time permits, if I'm able to, put it in the desired time frame, probably add one more composition. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And after this, if you have some more few minutes, I'll say a few words about Indian classical music in general, the connection between melody and spirituality in this stream of music. Okay.
Excellent.
So
Great.
do we have your permission to go ahead and sing?
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thanks. मन तो है मन तो है कि विधि में समझाऊं मन तो है कि विधि में समझाऊं मन तो है कि विधि में समझाऊं कि विधि में समझाऊं मन तो है कि विधि में समझाऊं सोना होए तो सुहाग मना सोना होए तो सुहाग मना बंकनाल रसलाऊं बंकनाल रसलाऊं ज्ञान शब्द की फूंक चला पानी कर पिघलाऊं मन तो है पानी कर पिघलाऊं मन तो है कि विध में समझाऊं मन तो है कि विध में समझाऊं घोड़ा होए तो लगाम लगाऊं घोड़ा होए तो लगाम लगाऊं ऊपर जीन कसाऊं मन रे ऊपर जीन कसाऊं मन रे घोड़ा होए तो लगाम लगाऊं ऊपर जीन कसाऊं मन रे हो ये सवार तेरे पर बैठूं हो ये सवार तेरे पर बैठूं चाबुक लेके चलाऊं मन रे चाबुक लेके चलाऊं मन तो है कि विध में समझाऊं मन तो है कि विध में समझाऊं ज्ञान ना हो ज्ञान सिखाऊं सत्य की राह चलाऊं मन रे कहत कबीर सुनो भय साधु कहत कबीर सुनो भय साधो अमरापुर पहुँचो मन रे अमरापुर 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 पहुँचो मन तो है कि विध में समझाऊं मन रे 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 मन रे
Oh, thank you. Just beautiful, and to again just to allow that music to kind of infuse our minds and bodies. We're extremely grateful. I'm going to say, for the sake of time, Panditji, I'd like to have your discussion of Hindustani classical singing to come into the panel discussion.
Sure.
And then if it's okay with you, we'll, as we close this evening, I would love you and Sashi to close this evening's then at the end with your second piece. If you would honor us with that, we would be very
grateful. An honor. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. And so if we could bring in all of our panelists and musicians. There we all are. Thank you. Tony, I'm curious to know, we'll start with you. What are some of the connections you saw this evening between these three performances?
Well, thank you for this beautiful music. It was just thrilling to hear. And I think, one unifying feature is the human voice, and what lies naturally and comfortably for the voice anchors all of the repertoire that we heard tonight. And that's, I think, part of its communicative power. It's sort of a way, obviously, of amplifying speech and making a message which in words can disappear very quickly, have an extra power and resonance.
That's lovely. And Tony, I know you have some questions that you'd like to engage with the rest of the panel.
Sure. One of the things, of course, that's thrilling is that some of the music you played tonight is from very ancient traditions. And in the case of Hildegard von Bingen, it's almost 1,000 years old. What do you feel this music still brings to us today? And is there a sense of, not only communicating among ourselves, but also with the people who have come before us?
I think that's a great question, and the relevancy of any musical style, I think, is inherent in its applicability to capture a feeling and a moment, regardless of time. And fortunately, we have things written down from Hildegard von Bingen, but there's a lot of music that is just sustained via oral traditions, and it's really capturing that essence of that music, both the sound, but also the meaning behind it, the spirituality behind it. And I think as long as you can capture that, that's the sort of the through line between the centuries.
Absolutely. And I would say too, talking about oral tradition, Panditji, you can definitely speak to that. And can you tie that in a little bit to your study of Hindustani classical music?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. See, this tradition, it dates back to thousands of years. Okay. So now, throughout all these years and centuries, there have been documented details of what this music is all about. Of course, it has evolved with time, but what has happened is the melody in this music is called rag. We call it rag. So rag, the shape of a rag, the entire detail about a rag, it's well documented, but it's open to interpretations by individuals. So it's a combination of both. On one hand, it strictly follows the grammatical parameters. At the same time, people who have attained that height, who have elevated themselves to that level of musicianship, they have every freedom to explore the rag every other day. In fact, the members of the audience who come to listen to this music, they expect the artist to come up with newer things every day. And the artist also, he himself doesn't know what's going to happen next moment, what he's going to produce next minute. In fact, only this in Indian tradition, very old civilizational things are like this. It's only the moment is true. The moment which is past doesn't hold good anymore. The moment which is going to come next, we don't know what's going to happen. So this moment is true. The musically is also that's true. So we follow a wonderful combination of written guidelines as well as instincts, musical instincts that we develop through training, we call it sadhana, meaning basically practice. And that practice has got a lot to do with spiritual elevation. It cannot be separated out. That's how it is.
Lovely. Thank you. And Fatih, do you know, like, can you also share in your music, in your tradition, what how is spirituality connected to the music that you make as well?
Sure. I just wanted to share my own experience about when I'm performing with Ertuğrul and Aslıhan. When you like a melody, you play it and you enjoy it, no matter what the lyrics are all about, however you feel about it. When you enjoy the melody, you just play it. That's how I used to feel. After I met with them, something caught my attention there. Sincerity was their target there. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the themes of one of the songs that I shared with Andy before, it was about self-interrogation. This is a method of ripening one's soul in Sufi tradition, or I'd say in Anatolian cultures, in many cultures actually. So something caught my attention. If Aslıhan and Ertuğrul, if they don't feel like it, if they cannot put full sincerity into that song, they don't do it there. Even in a concert, in a well-written, let's say we have a playlist and we decided that we're going to do these songs, and we go to the concert and Ertuğrul looks at me and says, "No, let's skip this. I I'm not feeling it. Let's move on to the next one. So sincerity is the main thing there. Otherwise, if you don't feel it deep inside, it's not going to reach to the audience, and our words are not going to mean anything. So that was one of the most important things that caught my attention since I started working with them. So I'd say sincerity is the main thing.
And also, and I hear similar concepts coming also that Panditji talked about in terms of that, being in the moment and being in that state of I would call bliss. There are many names for it. Obviously, we all try to achieve that in a variety of practices. We have a couple of questions from our audience that I want to jump to. The first one is, it appears the love for melody is a learned gift, a heartfelt language that may not be fully appreciated by others who have not been brought up in that particular culture. Is that true? And Tony, you talked a little bit about that. I think you shared sort of like how we are raised within a cut, how much culture has to do with how much we understand the patterns that you spoke about at the beginning of the program.
So it is true. There's a lot about the particulars of a music that we love that is enculturated. A good example in Western music is the major and minor modes, which is one of the fastest ways music in the West communicates being happy or sad or positive or negative emotion. But actually, that's not absolute. There are cultures that get married to music in minor. And I'm part of an interesting experiment at Houston Methodist Hospital's Center for Performing Arts Medicine, where we actually played a playlist of music to people while they were in an fMRI scanner, music that they brought in themselves, music from Western culture they'd be familiar with, and then music we thought they wouldn't probably have ever been exposed to. In this case, we picked gagoku, the court music of ancient Japan, which is 1,000 years old, and in Japan is considered one of the most lofty kinds of music. When the Western ears, though, were in the scanner, you couldn't tell the difference between them listening to noise and listening to the gagoku.
Interesting.
And whereas their brain completely lit up when they were listening to their self-selected music, it hardly responded at all when they were hearing the gagoku. And again, it's important to emphasize, gagoku is deeply the music of another culture. It is, again, exalted and noble and has been around for 1,000 years and continues to be played. So it just shows you how much enculturation plays a role. Now, all that being said, there are wonderful bonds between different musical traditions. And as we've all felt so powerfully during this pandemic, we have a great human need to connect with each other, and we want to understand each other. I think the best parts of ourselves want to do that. And, again, thanks to all the tools that we have going in our brain that are constantly seeking out patterns, it's not necessarily a big leap to join with another culture's tradition and understand it. And maybe music has an incredible advantage over language in that respect, because you can so much more easily immerse yourself in another musical tradition and really have it become part of you.
Yeah, and would anyone like to add to that? I think it's beautifully explained. To me, there is oftentimes in the work we do, we play certain music, and we oftentimes hear the word nostalgia raised with certain kinds of music. And I would assume that, again, that is something that, again, it is what you brought it so well to the surface with the samples of the lullaby, of the two lullabies. I think that is a great example of how different cultures embrace patterns and sound in their practices. We do have another question, actually, and Tony, I think I just sort of wanted, before we end, I wanted to just ask, each of you, what did each of you notice in someone else's performance that that you found familiar or soothing, or something that just what came to the surface for you about one of the other traditions that each of you heard tonight? And let's see, Fight, could you start? Would you mind starting?
Should I? Okay. Well, or would you like to?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, again, I'll come back to the same exact topic, sincerity. I feel like all of the performers, they put their heart into it, and I could feel that this was something phenomenal. I could feel their sincerity, and this is reach out to one another. It's all about our hearts being connected, and music is the only way to do this. So I really appreciate their performances, and I'm honored to be among wonderful people tonight. This is so it's a blessing. Thank you.
Great. And Pandit, what came to the surface for you when you heard the other music?
Firstly, we enjoyed a lot the music. Excellent music we heard today, this evening, through different artists. But the point that came again in my mind, that I'm again convinced that music, melody, spirituality, these are all part of the same package. So, and there is no borderline based on origin, nationality, language, faith, whatever we may think of. Nothing can separate people when it comes to music, because it has got to do with pure feelings. Music, sometimes people ask me what sort of music to listen to. I say, listen to music. Don't listen to something which is not music, but is being portrayed as music. That says everything.
Thank
Listen.
you. Thank you. And Tim, what I'm curious, because again, performing mainly in the Western European style, what similarities or inspirations did you find tonight?
Well, I think Fatih hit the nail on the head. It's I love the word you used. It's sincerity, and we're talking about patterns and melodies, right? That was how we started this, and we're talking about patterns and performance between everybody. It's that sincerity. That's the pattern, and it's that willingness to be vulnerable in the moment and to trust the performers you're with, and to trust your audience to express that sincerity and to really inhabit whatever it is you're trying to convey. I think that's the sort of the crux of being a musician, and it was on full display, I think, tonight.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank everyone tonight for what a fascinating evening. And again, when we edit this edit tonight's performance episode, we will make sure all the musical examples are clear and sound, and everything. And we appreciate your patience. And it's an honor to be in the same virtual room with all of you tonight. I feel this has been a holy place this evening. So thank you very much. Stuart?
Yeah, just a deep expression of gratitude. I'm so just joyed to be with you all this evening. Thanks for your time and your talent and energy this evening. For the audience, thank you for joining us this evening. Be sure to tune in next time in 1 week from this evening, and like and share this video, and definitely follow us on Facebook and YouTube for up-to-date details about our forthcoming events.
Great. And for more information about other programming offered by the Institute for Spirituality and Health and HGOco, please visit our respective websites at spiritualityandhealth.org and hgoco.org.
Great. Thanks again to everyone. And thank you to our audience, especially for joining us and your patience this evening. And we'll see you next week.
And so Pandit and Sashi, would you please share with
Sure.
us
Definitely.
your second piece?
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Dani tadani dere dere dani tana tadare dim 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 dere na dita dare dani. Dani tadani dere dere dani tana tadare dim 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 dere na dita dare dani. Dani tadani dere dere dani tana tadare dim dim dere na. Gare gada da ba ma pa pa ma gare ga ma gare sa ni sa ni re 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 o da ni sa re ga ma pa ma gare ga ma pa da ni da ba ma pa da ni sa re ni re sa re da sa ni da ni pa ni pa da ba ma da ma pa ma gare sa ni sa re ga re re ni sa re re ni sa re re o da ni da de da ni na dere dani dum dere dani dim ta dere na dere dani dum dere dani dim ta dere alali ya la lum eli ya la alali ya la lum eli ya la granda te di de ta dare dani o dani ta da dere dani ta na ta dare dim dere na dere na dim ta dere na o dani dere dani ta Sada da ba ma pa ma sa ni ni da ba da ba sa da ni da ni da sa ni sa da ni ba da ma pa ma ga re sa ni sa re da dere da ni ta na ta da re di ta na ta da re di ta na ta da re di. Thank you so much.